children who may be in this room. We believe you are hiding in plain sight.
Keep your babies close to you. There's someone out there.
What's up, Mob Crew? I'm Chris, and today's missing person case is Don. Also, today's person of interest is Olivia. Today's missing person case is Courtney.
What's going on there, man? We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please, Wayne.
What's up, Mob Crew? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. I cover murder, mystery to the paranormal. And today's show, we're going to be talking about the Idaho students. I have a special guest, Steve from True Crime Web. I will introduce him here in just a second. But before we get started, just plug my sponsor real quick.
Friends, are you prepared for the widespread food shortages ahead? Farmers have been warning us for months, but are we listening? They say it's beyond their control, especially with the fertilizer crisis. Bottom line, food shortages will be a harsh reality very soon. That's why you should get ready now with emergency food from My Patriot Supply. And good news, today you'll save 20% on their 3-month food kit. These kits provide delicious, easy-to-make breakfasts, lunch, dinner, snacks, drinks for one person for 3 solid months. Get one for each member of your family while you're able to save 20% during this timely sale. Remember, My Patriot Supply is the nation's largest preparedness company with millions of families already protected. These 3-month food kits, which average 2,000 calories a day, are in stock and ready to go. Your order ships fast and free and arrives in unmarked boxes. Go to www.preparewiththemobcrew.com. Those who know what's coming are already prepared. Are you? Prepare with www.preparewiththemobcrew.com. Thank you so much.
All right. Shout out to My Patriot Supply for sponsoring today's live show. So I'm going to quickly, we also like to show the missing at the beginning of every show. I do take requests. You can email me if you have somebody, a family member or friend that recently went missing. I'd be happy to feature them in an upcoming live show or video. You can get my email in my description or from my mods. So today we have Lucian. He is just 5 years old. He went missing on September 10th. He's 4 foot, 50 pounds, brown hair, brown curly hair. There is a $10,000 reward. He went missing. Let's see, where did he go missing on? Oh, Yakima, Washington. So anybody in Washington or near Yakima, be on the lookout for Lucian. All right. So I'll go ahead and close that and introduce our special guest of the day. Hey, Steve, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great, sir. How are you?
Good, thank you. As always, just for those that might be kind of new to the channel, would you like to just give a little bit of background to yourself?
Sure. I'm Steve. I'm a retired law enforcement officer, 20 years experience. Uh, I was an investigator. Started off my career in the jail and worked road and went into investigations. Had all different types of training. Part of that training was becoming a certified crime scene technician and handled cases from all across the board up to homicides.
Awesome. And so you've been recently starting to cover the Idaho students case here.
I've begun to familiarize myself with the case. Absolutely.
Yeah, it happened on November 13th, and it's been over 4 weeks. Still no suspect. And what a just terrible tragedy this was. We have 4 students, 2 at 20 years old, 2 at 21, just starting their lives. We have Ethan and Xana, who they were currently dating, and we were a couple at the time. And then we have Maddie and Kaylee, and they were kind of childhood friends that grew up. And kind of one of the last footage that we see is those two together kind of hanging out the grub truck and getting some food. And then they kind of quickly, looks like they get a ride from what they say a private party. They leave at approximately, I think, 1:40. And we'll look at the timeline here. So here's just kind of a timeline. We got Kaylee and Maddie here, and they were at the bar from approximately 10 to 1:30. And then they went to the grub truck to get some food. And it says that they left. This is the timeline, I believe, Moscow PD put out. So they have it saying that they left at approximately 1:40. And then they have, let's see, where is it? Kaylee and Maddie arriving at the residence at approximately 1:45, which I have seen. One journalist, she did the drive from the grub truck to the home of where the students, and it took her about 3 to 4 minutes. So that sounds about right. And then we have Ethan and Xana, who were at the Sigma Chi party. They say here from 10 to 11. And then it says that they were back at the residence at 1:45. Maybe could have been earlier, but that's the time they have here. So all the 4 students are home by 1:45. And then there's also 2 other roommates, so 6 roommates total. And the other 2 roommates who were on the first floor, they said that they were home as well by that time. So we have a full home. And we kind of move to the timeline here. And so after everybody gets home, then there's a couple of, well, actually, I wouldn't say a couple, but there's 10 phone calls made to an ex-boyfriend. And we'll just kind of get with specific details. So apparently Kaylee, I believe, starts to call her ex-boyfriend at 2:26. It was originally in this article, it said 6, but so what it is she made 6 calls. And then after that, Maddie had made 3 phone calls. And then Kaylee made 1 more phone call. Because before, when I got this all down, it was 9 phone calls. And then the next time I was reporting, everybody's telling me, no, it's 10. It's 10. What am I missing? 6 and 3. So they added Kaylee had made 1 more phone call after Maddie. So that's the 10 phone calls. So that's the last phone calls at approximately 2:52. So now we have the latest kind of update, and we don't know a whole lot, but from apparently there's some surveillance. And let me kind of pull up here we go. So there was a car spotted. Now, a couple weeks ago, has it been, let's see, how long has it been? It feels like 2 weeks that we've known about the Hyundai Elantra, that the Moscow Police Department said that they were looking for a Hyundai Elantra between 2011 2013. And then these people at the Exxon apparently went to look at their surveillance and noticed that there is a car. We'll go back to the picture here. And let's see. Let me pull up the full picture here. There we go. So they captured this car going down the road at 3:45 a.m. They said it was speeding and turned down a side road. So what do you think about those details?
Well, the location, why is that of such interest of where it's at that time? And if they're turning towards the crime scene, why would that draw that information? And what has brought us to focus on this car in the first place? What is the source that originally made everybody start looking for this vehicle? Do you?
Yeah, I don't, and that's a great question. Is we don't really know what was the source. And it doesn't sound like this, this gas station surveillance was the source that alerted to, Moscow that there was this White Hyundai Elantra. There's something else that's the source that they are confident that it's a Hyundai Elantra between 2011 and 2013. So possibly a witness or a previous surveillance that from somewhere else in the vicinity. But
I
yeah,
I know that they said there was a lot of focus by a lot of people out there, that the FBI was processing all this digital information from all these cameras. And is that where this specific vehicle was sighted very close? And was it seen by multiple cameras? Is that what has piqued law enforcement's interest to put that bolo out?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame. Rosie says gas station attendant was looking through tapes. Yeah. There was actually, so Brian Enton's been out there and he said he went down to it. There's a vape shop that's a little bit further down. So this is just to kind of give everybody an overview. So this is Highway 8 or Troy Street. And it sounds like the car was heading west. I'm not 100% sure. But it supposedly said that they were speeding and they turned down a side street. And we'll look at the article as well. So it could be that they're going to this Steiner Avenue, which would lead you right to the King Road. If it was heading east, that would make sense for it to be speeding off in a way. And it could be, but from what I've been talking to people, but I don't know 100% if it's, if it was heading west or east. But it sounds like if the camera could see it turning down a side street and you're thinking about field of view, it's only going to have so far a field of view that I would think this would be the side street they're talking about, but I could be wrong. So going back to the timeline, we'll look at the article a bit more and kind of look at some cars and stuff, but let me get my timeline back up here. Oh. So either way, they still have the murders approximately 3 to 4. There's also that neighbor. I wasn't sure to put this in the timeline because the neighbor who lives to the east of the building said he went to bed approximately 4 a.m. and possibly heard a scream. Let me move this. I'll come back to. Well, actually, no. We'll talk about this because we heard about that Kaylee and Maddie, or especially Kaylee, was kind of like the target. One of these students was the target and the other one was kind of collateral. Which one was a target? It sounds like Kaylee, from sadly her father releasing some, difficult details, trigger warning that, Kaylee and Maddie definitely had some really brutal wounds, especially Kaylee had the worst of it. So I wanted to read this because I think this is kind of interesting because there's some speculation that, the killer started at the third floor and that maybe Ethan and or Xana heard a noise. And we'll kind of look at the floor plan too. And that, when he was going downstairs, maybe let's just say Kaylee, one of the two was the target. And then when he came back downstairs, unfortunately, Ethan or Xana was moving around. And so he had to dispatch both of them because they were kind of, got up and maybe was in the hallway. But this is interesting. So I'm going to read this. So detectives are releasing that on the morning of November 13th, the surviving roommates summoned friends to the residence because they believed one of the second floor victims had passed out and was not waking up at 11:58. So if you just kind of pay attention to the wording, Obviously, if someone's just laying out on the floor, then they could go check on him. So I think, what do you think of that wording? Does that kind of confirm that the door was shut?
I would think so, that they may not have known at that time, the two people that living on the first floor may not have known that their roommate on the second floor even had Ethan there. They may not have even realized. They could have just thought that she was in her room by herself. And that's is why you might have singular, that normally that's what historically happens, is that she goes to sleep up there and locks her door and they can't get access. And so they weren't anticipating Ethan to be there.
Right. But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting, because that's just kind of talking about the 911 call, and if there was an unconscious person and not waking up, and they felt like, I would assume that's maybe because with the brutality of this murders, if someone was just laying down on the ground, I'm assuming if the stab wounds, there's going to be a lot of blood. I'm sure there'd be a difference between an unconscious person and, I could be wrong, but.
No, you're not wrong. When people die in knife fights, been there, seen them, they've been in a knife fight. There's nothing extremely, horrific crime scenes. You'll have, if you're in the area where, now you do have some victims that once they're injured, they may run a certain or move a certain distance and then pass out, but they're still or go down once they lose the ability to be able to move or walk, that there's still hearts pumping, they're on the ground, there's still blood in their system, and they'll eventually bleed out there, but that there's blood there. It's not that your heart quits pumping or you have a total loss of blood in one room and you're able to go 20 or 30 feet with no blood trail. That's not the way that works. You're going no.
Right. Karen Lee thinks 3 targets, I'm thinking. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And then Ethan was kind of collateral. Yeah, that's definitely. Maybe even all 5, and that they just couldn't get into the first floor because the other 2 girls had their doors locked. Definitely. I will get to the super chats here in just a second. Let me knock those out and then I'll ask these questions. I missed one. One who's C. Thank you so much for the 149. I love that name. Thank you so much for the super sticker. And there's a question. Hello, Stephen. Chris, question. Why do you think they're watching the U.S.-Canadian border for a white car? Go ahead, Steve.
Well, if they, for some reason, they're very specific of make and model. And so either we have, and I would think it would be more than just a witness that saw a white car passing in the neighborhood. When you start saying year models and specific cars, it's like you can look at it and see certain identifiable parts of that vehicle. So what it is.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. That is great insight. Because just a witness that sees a car, I mean, unless they are like a mechanic, how are they going to know it's between 2011 2013? I mean, unless they have that same exact car or something. Yeah, that's amazing. So that's almost a confirmation that they have some kind of other surveillance. That's amazing.
And so if they have that specific, of course, you put out your bolos to all surrounding agencies and especially your borders, for the fact that Canada has a history of people that's on the run, that people try to get there, especially if it's ever going to be the possibility of some type of death penalty case for the fact of what the protections of the borders offer.
Interesting. Great insight. Thank you, Miss Dog Lover, for the super chat. Great question. T, thank you so much for the $2 super sticker. You're so awesome. And let me get one more. And then I'm going to ask you, there are so many cameras on the road. There is, especially on that highway, that Troy Road. I hope that have footage from earlier in the day, possibly getting gas so they can get it played. Yeah. Or figure out kind of if they did stay on like a major thoroughway or something, that they could figure out where they went. Thank you so much, Tom, for the $10. Yeah, there are, but there are a lot of cameras for sure. So, trigger warning. I'm not going to get into specific details, but the coroner describes, when sadly the father asked about, some of the details about his daughter's death. What was the stabbings like? And she used the word tears into the victim. And we were talking about this the other day. What kind of weapon would cause that?
And I see you found one of the knives that has the back saw on it, which is that knife A. Of course, you have the hone cutting edge, and then on the back side of it, on that back saw, is something that would create a different type of wound, different type of wound channel. And if it was withdrawn in a certain direction with certain force, you would have large disfiguring wounds. And is that what they're talking about? Very possible.
Right. So it's definitely something not like B and C, but something that's got something on both sides of the blade that's gonna, unfortunately do some serious damage. Would that suggest a hunter? I mean, I guess I don't know what that area is like. I mean, if everybody, is that
No, I mean,
a specific profile?
Well, of course, anyone that has any type of weapon they bring to the scene, of course, you look at, you go into a house and you carry a weapon. You're not using what's there, which is unorganized. You're bringing something.
Yeah, organized.
Then you're more organized because you've already thought the process that I'm going into an environment, whereas whatever is feeding your focus and targeting this residence, and you're going there for a reason. And when you bring a weapon to a scene and you've targeted a residence or people in that residence, that says a lot about that person's individual's personality.
Yeah. Dark vision. I've never understood trigger warnings. Yeah. I mean, with live shows, I try to, when we get into certain specific details, but yeah, it is true crime. We are going to, unfortunately, talk about some terrible things. So what is the likelihood the killer or killers left their DNA behind at the crime scene, especially when it's a stabbing situation?
I'm going to create a new number, 101%.
Oh, wow.
I absolutely believe you don't fight four people violently, and not saying that all of them fought.
Right.
At some point, someone did because they made claim to that. And it's been from one to several. But you don't have interactions and you don't have that much movement through a house on separate floors, through multiple doors and multiple struggles. And there's not a transfer of DNA. Now, finding the DNA is different. His DNA, the DNA is there. It's a matter of finding it because he didn't go in there in some type of biological hazard suit. He went in there dressed as any individual will, bringing his home environment, the environment from his vehicle, ever how he got there. If he walked there, whatever residence he left, he brought that into this crime scene. The hairs, the fibers, the DNA of him, and if he had pets, he brought that in there. And so they just have to evaluate it and find it.
So, okay, let me move on and then I'll come back. So after a month with no arrest, do you think that points more towards a single suspect, or does time not really? What do you think on this with a case like this, especially with how big it's growing as far as?
Well, I believe law enforcement, and like I said, you don't go in and blood crime scene. They're going to know a lot about this individual because from the first victim, from that point on, I mean, do we have handprints on the bedding, on the bodies? Because once this individual, if it's a single individual, you're going to start seeing his movement through the crime scene as he touches one victim, then he goes and touches the next victim. And they have that confrontation or the simple as he kills each of the victims. And so you're going to have possibly shoe prints. You're going to have possible handprints, possible smudges on the walls from the clothing as he walked and went up and down flights, or as people struggled, that they bounced off of walls, off of floors. There's so much that happens in a fight for survival.
Excuse me. The police said that they just wanted to talk to the person. The police said they just wanted to talk to the person or persons in the white car. Now they're watching for the Canadian border. This would indicate the perpetrator. What do you think? Do you think, if they're watching the border now, that this is more than just a witness? It would, if it was like, you're leaning witness or perpetrator, if they're keeping an eye on the borders, do you think that's leaning more towards perpetrator?
Well, I mean, everyone in that town, there's no one in Moscow that does not know of this murder now.
Sure.
And if you own a white Elantra, you know about that, and you haven't come forward.
Right.
And what type of tag was identified, and what type of vehicle? Did they get a partial tag number? We just don't know all the information yet. But and just standard operating procedures is of course you would notify that once the FBI gets in here and they start looking at, and if they pull by now they know every registered Elantra in that state and probably the surrounding states. And they're probably looking at every state that students across the United States that are going there.
Oh, interesting.
And they'll check that registry. I mean, that's what law enforcement does. They're going to track down every possibility of who would visit from their home state, be in this area, or possibly a student that has whatever reason to commit such a crime might be trying to get back home. And do we have someone that's a student here from Canada? Don't know.
Yeah, great point. So, and I'll get to your thing here, Tom, in just a second. What is the particular crime scene tape used for? So this is what I'm talking about. So you kind of see it on the ledge, and you see it here. I think you've already have an answer. I'm just curious, is there more than one use for this, or?
Well, normally we use that to seal individual packages, such as bags, such as
Right.
whenever you bag up the hands, that you'll tape them shut, and then you'll put this. It's a very fragile tape that when you put it on, but if you ever try to remove it, it is easily broken. You cannot you do not peel that off, and it not being noticed it's been tampered with. There's no peeling, there's no scraping, there's no opening. That tape is extremely fragile. That once it's secured, and that's used more for sealing and securing and you can use it for doors, use it on anything you want to, envelopes, boxes, ever how you could get into a box, that tape's on it. And if it's broken, that shows you it's been tampered with.
Okay. Because I can't tell. It almost looks like a piece of little evidence tape. Now, this is the window of one of the first floor roommates. So
that white bar on there allows you to put a date and time.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
And so if someone goes in, there's not a problem about going in. You go in, or you look at it, or you investigate, and you open, and you may break one seal. Next, when you go in, of course, you just put another piece of tape on, like this door has 2 or 3 on it.
Right.
Because someone else gained access through it.
And is this almost like keeping track of who comes in and who's?
Yes,
interesting.
Yeah, you can have multiple times that someone else may have come in, and they just resealed it, and you have the date and time evidence log of who had access as it came in and out. And
that's interesting.
It's just a way of keeping a log of entries.
Oh, that is okay. That's pretty cool. I know that's nothing like major about the case or anything, but that is interesting to know. It's just kind of curious. You did see that tape a lot, but yeah, that's something that you usually see on evidence seals. You're correct. Tom says, I think it's definitely premeditated, and I believe it may be one step further, as in conspiracy variety. Ooh. Yeah. Definitely premeditated, coming in with that kind of bladed weapon, fixed knife, and most likely a targeted attack. Thank you so much, buddy, for the $10. Trying to go back and forth with your guys' questions, and I'll see if I can get back to a few. Let me get caught up on the chat here. Okay. So moving on. Okay, so how do you normally work a crime scene after secured? Inside to out or outside to in?
You always, you have to come in from the outside as much as possible. You go in, and of course, you have to check for life and provide life-saving measures.
Yeah,
There's
secure the
always going to be
scene.
cross-contamination, but once you've done everything you can to save and preserve life, and decisions, of course, are instant. That if there's someone that has any signs of life or possibility, you offer aid. And of course, you can pretty well count. You secure what evidence you can see, move it, document it as quickly as possible, and take care of whatever you have to do. But once the scene is secured, everybody, and that's why you may have multiple layers of tape up. That, okay, everybody in the house is removed from the house. And now we put up a perimeter outside the house, and you may put up a second or third perimeter.
Which they have. They've kind of extended, they started with the house, and they've kind of the parking lot, and yeah.
And you have these checkpoints, and that way you keep the media, the social media, and the lurkers as far away from it as possible. And then only the ones that's supposed to have access into certain areas. And there used to be a time that law enforcement had almost like it was a circus activity. And but as training changed and it's become more towards the CSI and organized investigations, that we have certain paths into a residence that we take. You try to identify which direction or entry point a suspect made into a residence. And if you can identify that, you don't go through that. You go through an alternate way into the residence. But you process from outside in, whatever that outermost perimeter is.
Yep.
You work it. You'll go into the next stage, work it, and then you'll get in there to where the victims are.
Is that kind of like
teams?
Sorry.
Do what?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just to add on to that. Is that kind of like building a timeline, like there now that you're working outside to in? It's kind of building like, okay, well, he broke the lock. Now he's coming in. Now he's moved upstairs. Is that kind of?
Well, you can have sectors. You don't have to work all the outside. You could work just that. This is the way to get into the residence first. We're going to work everything on this path first, collect everything. And so you can send one team. I don't know what the resources was that they brought in for this case. Don't know how many CSI guys they had. Don't know how many agencies they brought in or personnel. But and then you can get in there to the house, because there is certain things that you can't just take and work this for a week. You have to get in there and get as much information as you can, as quickly as you can, because the suspect is moving, is he destroying evidence, and how can we get what information? We got to find that bloody fingerprint. We got to find that DNA profile of the suspect. We got to find some type of, sometimes you can find the actual weapon, identifiers. It's not unheard of that during struggles and things, people lose identifiers such as their driver's license, billfolds, necklaces, a ring. You can find all this stuff at a crime scene. So you have to be as fast as possible, but also process it as diligently as you can.
Interesting.
So
what? Yeah. Oh yeah, so much. It's amazing. So as you can see, here's a picture of them outside with, you got a little evidence tag here, number 4. Now, would you, if you've got, a house is obviously the crime scene, but if there's finding evidence outside, was that mean that 1 through 4 is outside, or could that mean the numbers could be inside? I know there's like 113 pieces of evidence, but I'm just curious with this number 4. Do you think there's 1 through 4 of just evidence just outside, or do you think?
Yes, I would imagine that there's at least 3 other pieces outside, but
Okay.
and there's a reason for that. But and you would have, each team may have a set of numbers, and that team identifying number, it doesn't have to be that every number as it collected throughout, because you can have multiple teams, and the leader of that team, whatever his identifier for that team and that evidence piece and what sector, that that number and sector identification, that barcode basically is going to tell you everything you need so that you can cross-reference that out for court.
Interesting. Yeah, because I was kind of wondering, it looks kind of like an envelope right there that they're picking up. It could be just trash that blew by, but I'm sure they got to take everything that they, have. I'll show that. So here we've got the 3rd floor layout. For those that are not too familiar with the floor plan. So starting with the 3rd floor, we've got Maddie's bedroom, which is on the east side. We've got Kaylee's bedroom on the west side here. So basically, south is at the top. But so here's the 3rd floor, and Kaylee and Maddie would be found in the same bedroom. Unfortunately, Kaylee would suffer the worst wounds. And then they did find the dog, which is Kaylee's dog. She shares it with her ex-boyfriend. The dog was found okay, of course. Some people wonder if maybe the dog was in Kaylee's bedroom, maybe in a pet crate or something. The dog is a golden doodle, which they are kind of a more tame, breed. And now looking at the 2nd floor plan, and I just found out some interesting information about the floor plan. So this house actually originally back in 2008, I'll have to look back at it, but it used to actually have a garage, and the 2nd floor didn't have any bedrooms. It used to be kitchen, living room, and dining room, and then maybe an extra, maybe the living room is, was bigger, and then this was the dining room, possibly, or something like that. But anyway, so yeah, there was no bedrooms originally in this house floor plan, but they added the 2 bedrooms and took out the garage. But Ethan and Xana, from kind of what they say in that one statement, kind of makes it sound like they were found inside the bedroom. Clearly, sadly, and I hate to mention this, but the blood that we see coming out of the wall is actually this wall right here where my mouse is moving. The photo's taken this way, and there's a little bit of blood. So clearly, I'm assuming maybe the bed or bodies were found closer to this area here. And then we look at the 1st floor plan, which you'd come downstairs and you take a left, and you've got either one bedroom here or a bedroom to the right. Not much to it. I think there's also a closet and then a bathroom. And then you've got the front door, which apparently, according to a witness, says that the front door was wide open, approximately 8:49, which is interesting. Kind of makes me wonder if maybe these attacks could have been all 6, but these roommates on the bottom floor had their doors locked. And the one thing that we've talked about on your show, or that you've talked about your show, is what it takes to dispatch 4 people. And actually, I don't want to have their picture up when I'm talking about that. But when you're dispatching 4 people, because you said you had to fight off multiple people, what was that like? Kind of describe that, because you told me that story.
Yeah. I got, one of the worst fights I ever got in my life was, I fought 3 men for 12 minutes. And luckily, 2 of them were grown sons, but they didn't have the desire to kill me that their father did. But and we didn't. They weren't attacking me with knives. It was just hands on. But
Yeah.
the close quarters. But we were still 4 bloody people at the end of that fight. 12 minutes, a lot of injuries can occur, and they did occur, and I survived it basically because I was only 20 something then, so that's 30. Goodness, that was over 30 years ago, and that's one of the things that I was able, because I was far better shape back 30 something years ago, and as you know, most of us are, but. And I've also survived a knife attack one time, and it's extremely, and I was very fortunate to survive that knife attack. Just a miracle that the guy turned on me, middle of the night, spun on me off the back of a car, and had a butcher knife. And if I had went to draw my gun, I would probably died. But I reached up and grabbed his hand as it was coming down towards my chest, and I caught it right there. And then, of course, my partner took care of him. But in close quarter battle, it's extremely violent, and it takes a lot of stamina. And even after that 12-minute fight against those 3 individuals, which aren't armed, after your adrenaline drops out, I mean, you almost collapse. And I did. Once I got to the hospital, got everybody transported and to the hospital, I looked at the nurse and I said, "Y'all got a gurney somewhere? I'm not feeling real good, guys." And it wasn't, of course, I had some bruises and bumps and dislocated shoulder and stuff. But I was able to survive that. And then I was able to survive a separate knife fight attack, like I said, from a different one. But all that close quarter stuff, it gets your heart pumping, adrenaline. And the longer the fight is, the less strength that you as an individual have. It's just for this individual to go in there and fight 4 individuals. I know that people are going to say, well, they were drunk and they were passed out. That may or may not be the case. And for them to have any defensive wounds means that there was some type of struggle. And overcoming 4 individuals in a fight of survival will take a certain amount of strength, especially if all of them have wounds, multiple wounds, because it's not a singular
attack
of one stroke and you're out. It depends on what type of injuries they are. In knife fights, you can last from 20 seconds to 2 or 3 minutes because a knife doesn't inflict the shock value that a gun does. When a bullet impacts and you have this the hydrostatic shock to the body that will immobilize you, a knife doesn't do that. And so it can be extremely long. It just depends on what injuries and how they're inflicted. And it's just, trigger warnings everywhere. It's nothing, there's hardly blood everywhere.
Yeah. Karina says, I would think with that much blood, the luminol would light up his trail wherever he went. And yeah, if he was walking in blood, we don't know that, but if he stepped in it tracked it a little bit through the house, or was dripping blood himself, or maybe a cut.
Yes. Oh yes. That's what they'll be looking for. And I will be surprised if they haven't some of that identifiers from the shoe prints. And if they ever find that vehicle, if that vehicle is involved, just like I did luminol with the floor mats and from the seat covers, luminol is just one presumptive test and one test of finding blood in these types of scenes. There's other chemicals out there and processes to find blood and process it. And sometimes you can see it just with your eye. That's what you first look at. You walk in a scene, and if you see anyone that had walked through any type of blood, you're going to see their footprints, their shoe prints.
Sure.
It's natural.
Sure.
I showed you some from one of my murder books.
Yeah.
And of course, that's another trigger warning that but it happens. And it's extremely, that when you're in there, you can track the movements of these individuals, not only of the perpetrator, the offender, but also of the victims. You'll see it depends on types of injuries, how they moved. I mean, there's certain arteries that if they're cut and as they move, every time the heart pumps, you'll see which way they were turning, which way they were moving, because you have that injury. You'll see which way they flew. They may have thrown their arm back as they were fighting. You'll have cast off patterns, the blood spatters everywhere, and they'll process that and they'll figure out from the offender standpoint what type of cast off he had from him.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have, because as he becomes blood stained, blood soaked, and as he's moving, he'll have cast off from the injuries he's inflicted on his victims. The victims will have it where they're fighting. And so it's just worst nightmare you can imagine.
Yeah. Now, like I said, we've already said trigger warning multiple times, but because when you're stabbing somebody, the thing that causes like the squirt is the blood pressure, correct?
Yeah. I mean, if you hit some of those main arteries, and every time the pump, I mean, anything around the throat, or anything of that nature, if you cut some of those, I mean, it's like taking a syringe and just squirting.
Yeah. Gamer Lover says, I got shot once. Burns bad. Oh my goodness. So sorry to hear that.
Who got shot? Oh, got burns bad. Okay.
Oh gosh. That doesn't sound like fun. I heard it. It feels like getting hit, like punched really hard wherever you get shot. Because obviously the force of the bullet, depending on where it hits you, it's going to feel like, a sledgehammer coming at you.
And bodacious is correct. This is arterial sprays. And that pattern is very distinctive.
Thank you, bodacious. Okay, so let's lighten the mood for just a minute, guys. So I didn't get to prepare for a whole show. I mean, we're still going to go, but just to kind of relax for just a second, so interesting story today. This is something you don't see every day. So it's been snowing like crazy here in Utah. It's where I'm from. So I'm just 10 hours away from Moscow, Idaho. But let's see, where is it? Let me pull it up here. So let me start with this picture. Okay, so this is just out my front yard, right? So here we've got a manhole that's missing, right? And well, there was because it's been snowing, we have a snowplow that is going to be coming through our street. And here he is. But he's stuck. And I heard this loud noise because this is just right outside. This is right in our front yard. And I heard this, obviously a snowplow is going to be really loud. But it was like much louder than usual. And I'm like, what is that screeching noise? And well, this guy high-centered and took the manhole and it high-centered his vehicle. Is that crazy? What are the odds that this thing is flipped up and then rolls to the part where it high-centers this? Oh, it's crazy. So this guy was stuck out there for 2 hours plus. They were trying to hit it with a sledgehammer because it completely high-centered this big giant vehicle. But he was going over this manhole. I don't know if it was his plow first that maybe kind of flipped it a little bit, or the front tire. But came out, poor guy, and I had to move my car so he could get some people. But something you don't see every day. They're not adding a third wheel to these snow plows. Well, I guess that would be a ninth wheel because they got 8 wheels, 6 wheels, 4, 6. So yes, they're not having a 7th wheel, but crazy, absolutely crazy. Luckily, it wasn't worse, and luckily nobody fell in the manhole. But something just absolutely crazy. So I thought I'd share that with you guys. But yeah, that unfortunately kind of put me behind because he made so much noise and they were making so much noise. I was going to do a kind of a trailer video, but I couldn't do it because they were just all outside front trying to bail this poor guy out. So let's talk a little bit more about this vehicle because it could have a purpose. I'm going to go ahead and play just a small clip that kind of relates to the car. So let me right here. Okay, go ahead and play this here.
Get you on this car because this image that Fox released today, it's an overnight manager at a gas station nearby that said she's been going over all the surveillance tape and saw this white car whizzing by, and you've been able to identify the direction. This is key in this image. Brian, what can you tell us about the location and direction that white car is flying through their surveillance tape?
So it's about a mile away, a gas station. We know that it was around 3:45 in the morning that they caught the white car. 3:45 in the morning, same time frame as the murders. Caught the car going by. Police, of course, are looking for a white car they believe was in the area of the murders when it happened. We raced over to the gas station when Fox Digital had this photo. They've sort of shut down there, threatened to call the police on us. So our crew got out of there. But it's interesting. I mean, and we know that police, have the footage.
And they've got caution tape.
You can't call the cops. Oh, oops, I was trying to pause. You can't call the cops on Brian Anton. Poor guy. He's just trying to, he's a good guy. I love Brian Anton. But yeah, so this, I'll play just a little bit more. I'm not sure if they give much more details. This one was kind of earlier on. They didn't really describe. He was supposed to go there to find out what direction it was going to, but they don't just, because that's what one of the videos, or the reason why I watched this video is I'm like, oh, I'm super excited to see like what direction, because I've been trying to figure that out. But he's going to the store to figure it out, but then they threatened to call the cops on him. So, but there is another article that kind of gives us a better detail, and we'll read that here in just a minute.
The front door. Ostensibly, their gas pumps are down, but they have this note saying, reporters with any questions, please call this number. That number's disconnected. And they've shut down even entry into that gas station, which is filled with products you would sell even if your gas pumps were down. So that is extremely curious that gas station. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the caution tape is a little misleading because they're having an outage there. Their computers are down and their gas pumps are down. That seems to have nothing to do. I don't think.
Okay. Today is Copper Horse's birthday. Oh, that's so awesome. Happy birthday to Copper Horse. She is amazing. She is the gifter. I mean,
Absolutely.
She has gifted me and Steve many memberships. And there's been a lot of people that wanted me to thank you, Copper Horse, personally for that. It's so amazing.
Absolutely.
To give people that membership, because just like me and Steve, we both do extra things with our members. We have member-only lives. We do have some exclusive stuff for those members. So if you want to become a member, help support the channel, we do have extra content that we do. Okay, so I don't think there's much more to this that's really relevant. So we'll go back to where this was taken, and I'll pull up the article. Let's read one of the newer articles. It's not long, it's pretty quick. So here's one of the articles that came out. It's Daily News here. So it says a car that police said could be critical to solving the vicious murders may have been caught by gas station surveillance on the night of the crime. Cops asked for tracking down a Hyundai Elantra with a model year between 2011 and 2013, saying that the driver of the car could have critical information in the case. Now, just before we go on, I'm assuming they would say that either way, if it was a witness or the perpetrator, they would just kind of keep that tight-lipped.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. And then so it says a gas station clerk reviewing surveillance video spotted a white sedan resembling the Elantra police were searching for about 3:45 a.m., which is on the day of the murders. The employee said the car was heading down Idaho State 8 real quick before turning down a side street. The highway runs through the city of Moscow, where the students were killed. Let's Let's see. Police said that the white Elantra they're searching for was spotted near the student's house the night of the murders. That is very huge. As if you might have missed the first part, you talked about something very interesting, and that is how we can tell whether the source of this vehicle that they're looking for, which is a white Hyundai Elantra between 2011 2013. What's interesting about what that source is versus a witness versus surveillance is that they know the model and the year, and then they even say they're not sure about the license plate or anything. So go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, there's some identifying marks. I mean, if you have a witness, like you said, you would have to have an expert mechanic or someone that's worked at the Hyundai that says, oh, that's the 2011, 2013. Now, it could be that. Or you have where there's a picture, it has identifying characteristic, models, fenders, wheels, something about that car that's specific to that year model or that parameters of those few years. And something for them to be that specific on it. Do they have a name of a suspect that owns the vehicle? That's possible too. That this is the vehicle he's going to be in. But if they had that, they'd be releasing the name.
Yep. Rosie for Rivet says ring camera. I think so. Something to that degree, somewhere in that neighborhood. I would bet that's probably the most likely scenario is somebody's got surveillance closer to the home that they know that vehicle had something, either witness or perpetrator. But just kind of look at this where this vehicle was captured. So I'll show you where it's at compared to the home of the students, which is just 5 minutes away, 1.2 miles. Now, what's interesting is the wording that they say. They said it's traveling down Highway 8. This is also Troy Road. It's kind of confusing because it's Highway 8, Troy Road, and if you go a little bit further, it's Highway 95. So depending on where you're at, just within a quarter mile, it kind of changes. So anyway, so assuming we're like any camera, it's going to only have so much field of view. So assuming maybe the camera's like this compared to this, because there's no side road that we'd be able to see. So I'm assuming that the camera is kind of pointed this way, and it said it turned down a side road. So my assumption would be either this way or even, well, if it turned this way, then they have cameras actually facing this road. So my opinion would be that it was caught turning this road. What do you think, Steve?
I hadn't looked at it. I'm going to go and break it down.
Okay, sure.
And blow it up and see if I can find a tree in it. Lighten up the background or see if I can find a signpost or go in there and manipulate and see what's on the other side of that vehicle.
Yeah, good luck. It's on the back of a cell phone, so it's going to be tough. There's not much. I was looking at this too.
Okay.
So the only things that I could tell. Okay, so one thing that I thought this was either a sidewalk or the line, but this is not. This is actually the edge of the phone is right here. So don't be fooled by this white because it's so perfect. Mm-hmm. So the phone is here. So whatever's below this, this white thing is nothing to do with the rotor camera. So keep that in mind. What's on this, I know, is the most craziest thing how this guy or person got this with the quality that it's in, actually.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah.
So yeah, there's not much. I mean, I'm sure you could probably get a good idea of what kind of vehicle. I've seen some people talk about a Volstra, but that seems more like a hatchback. But a lot of people are kind of thinking more two-door. Well, I wouldn't say a lot, but I've seen people post. Let's just keep it that way. I've seen some people post the Volstra. I came across the GS Coupe that kind of looks fairly close. I'll go ahead and play my overlay real quick. Oh gosh. I can't do it like that. You guys can't watch it if I do it like that. Oh, yeah, you can. I just have to move it over. There we go. There we go. So that's the Volster. But it's got more of a hatch back. It's not the same. So I don't think it's, in my opinion, I don't think it's this model. Because they said Elantra. So, but I did kind of overlap to see. But it's more, I think it's the second one here, which is the GS Coupe. It's a two-door Elantra. And it seems like it matches up fairly close. Not 100% perfect. You know, obviously it's kind of moving, so it's hard to get the right perfect length. But I think a lot of people are leaning more towards a two-door, so like a coupe. Checking the chat. DA says definitely two-door, maybe a spoiler. Yeah, it does kind of look. Let's pull that up. Pull the image up. It does kind of almost look like there's a spoiler on the back, doesn't it? Right there, almost looks like a. You know, it's kind of faded, but possibly. I know you'll need to pull it up on your thing there, Steve, but.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Got a good fingerprint, and see, yeah. I mean, I've got that highlight on the phone. Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm playing with the picture now as you discuss this.
Yeah, those to orient. Yeah, use the two fingers to orient.
Yeah.
Back looks the same. Yeah, I think it is. I think I'd lean more towards a two-door coupe. It does seem kind of shorter, but then again, the thing that we got to keep in mind though is we don't know if this is really the car or not. This is, from what it sounds like, this is not the source of the Hyundai Elantra from 2 weeks ago. Like, you know, whatever they have is something that's closer to the home.
Yeah, I mean, they said it. They said seen in the area, and so
Right.
Law enforcement speak. It's in the area.
Right. And then we can see here where it looks like if this is from that Elantra, it looks like it kind of peeled out here. What you call it, acceleration marks? Is that what
Yes.
that? And it looks like it kind of like they peeled out, and you know it's pretty narrow, so they had to like quickly turn. You see where it kind of loops there, where they're like, oh, you know, is that we think is that pretty suspicious? Lean to this person was in a rush to.
I mean, I never drove an Elantra. Somebody out there maybe has to be able to tell me if is it even possible for that model and make and size of motor and horsepower to create that acceleration mark from that.
Oh, yeah, interesting. Right.
And if so, is it? If it is, then of course you could have it. But if it's not, then of course it's nothing to do with that vehicle.
Yeah. Jelly Bean says coupe. Yeah, I definitely see a lot of people been posting like, you know, two-door. Now I want to kind of stay away because I know everybody's posting all these white cars on Twitter and everything, and I mean the poor people that have any white four-door sedan in a 5-mile radius is having their car, you know, they're kind of under scrutiny right now.
Now, in this picture, if you see the measuring tape on the ground, and they're measuring what the outside of the tire width is and what would be the inside width between the tires, and they'll be able to tell certain about the wheelbase of that vehicle. And
right. So that would almost, you know, even confirm or deny if that is a Hyundai Elantra by the wheelbase and from the tire tread.
Yeah, whatever the footprint of that vehicle's tires would be, either that's going to confirm or deny that that's the vehicle that caused that.
Yeah, Fuzzy Mujalla, Maju Mala says, I drive a 2012 Elantra, but I've never tried to peel out of any parking lot. I don't think I've ever peeled out either. Would love to, but one day, maybe one day, put that on the bucket list. Don't think I've ever had a car that I could peel out with. Holly says, in my opinion, white car looks like an undercover car. Maybe it was watching house and was seen speeding past to go to the drunk frat boys call. I'll have to take a look at the undercover's car, but they were there at 3 a.m. and this was spotted at 3:45. So this would have been, way after, unless they're going to a new incident. It could be. That's actually not a bad point. Actually, think about it. But I'd have to look at the undercover car and.
But they'd be getting rubber samples and everything else from that mark. Let's see, manufacturer of tire, and there's a lot of information there that they'll be sending off to the labs to tell
Right.
who the manufacturer of the tires were.
Right. Let's see, what time is it? Okay, so oh my gosh, man. Okay, so we started 10 minutes after.
Yeah.
So we'll go a little bit more. We'll try to answer a few questions. If you have some questions, if you can, just put them in now, so that way it'll take too long, forever for me to scroll all the way back. So we'll try to snag like 10, 15 questions. So if you have some questions, if you can, try to put them in now. And I can't promise we'll get to everyone, but we'll try to answer a few. And let's see if I can pull this. There's one thing I was going to ask you about the crime scene. So one of the things I did is I made a video. Maybe I wonder if I should play that. I know a lot of you guys saw that where I kind of debunked some stuff because Nancy Grace was on the other day. Well, it was on Monday, but she was talking about wondering if the Hyundai Elantra had 4-wheel drive because they didn't think the car would be able to get up the hill because all that snow. And I'm like, we all make mistakes. One thing you'll get with this channel is I do not claim to be a know-it-all. I make mistakes all the time, and so I don't want to go hard on Nancy Grace. But she did have a panel of people, and they're all talking about wondering if this Hyundai Elantra has 4-wheel drive, and I'm like, because they're seeing pictures of more recent pictures of the home when it snowed, but there wasn't snow on day 1, day 2 or 3. I think I had to look, but so it was just kind of nerve-wracking to hear them talking for like 30-40 minutes about this Hyundai Elantra and whether it had 4-wheel drive. One thing, what do you make of these guys, Steve? So these guys showed up middle of the night. This is week 3, almost week 4, and they show up to the house, just plain clothes, but he's kind of like a laminate or something right here. Was this undercover FBI?
It could be anything from that, or it could be a marshal's unit, fugitive squad. And those guys, they look, you don't want them after you.
So, does that point at anything that they were looking at? Is there something specific that if that was the group?
But if it's investigative and they don't look like the typical CSI group of guys.
No, they look serious.
Yeah. And personalities can be told by a lot by this. And the guy up front, the leader, there's reasons why certain people are always at the forefront. And as far as the psychological part of it. And I haven't seen the full video, but what were they looking for? Did they go up there to see the type of individual they're looking for to get inspiration, or see is there certain information in that house that might still be in there? How long will they keep this house sealed? I have no idea, and that'd be interesting.
Yeah. So we got one of our first questions for the end of the show. How from Jelly Bean? How long does it take to get collected evidence back from the lab, like DNA?
That has changed. They've got some of this stuff, like up in Tennessee recently, where that lady was kidnapped and murdered. they had DNA profile back in a couple, 3 days with suspect. Things have changed. It depends on what you're looking for, as far as some of the lab work. Then, of course, toxicologies, you may be weeks or certain things, which, it doesn't have anything to do with this case. Being murdered doesn't matter what your alcohol level is as being the victim. It might as an offender, but not for the victim. And but it's it can be anything from days to months.
Yeah. And something else that I wanted to add, unfortunately, with the victims is that because they were out drinking alcohol thins your blood, you would bleed out a little faster, correct?
Yes, any type of wound that, especially major arteries, you don't have a lot of time. And from what the father said, and we don't know how accurate that his descriptions are, because he's in point of grieving, and how is he processing information. But he wants to get the message out there that they received horrendous injuries, non-survivable, and it was caused by something described as a strong weapon, and which is a new term to me. And so I'm extremely interested in that. What is a strong weapon?
Yeah. Thomas says they haven't even made a launcher coupe in like 10 years. So what? We're at 223. So they're looking between 2011, 2013. Interesting, though. They don't make those coupes anymore. Huh. People prefer the 4-door, maybe. Mob Crew Chris, your presentation video on the 5 claims circling around was really good. Thank you so much. I'll delete all. Yeah, that video did really well. I'm gonna work on another one. My chat kind of disappeared. Yes, that's interesting. I thought I heard something about that. So rental already on the market. So do you think they've, done everything they can with the scene? And
No, we really don't know. They're keeping it secured for a reason, and which is good.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I thought I'd heard some things like that where they were saying, "Oh, it's kind of going back on market," which seems kind of early until they, figure this out.
Because they can still go in there and look at those blood patterns and still be able to find an individual that, as they go back in, and take their time and look at it, and continue to search for that one blood drop that is an outlier. It's not part of any other pattern, and hopefully be able to identify it, because you're not going to be able to ever molecule and ever blood pool of distinguish the mixtures, but you have to try to find that one blood pattern that is not belonging to any of the other victims, in case the offender injured himself.
DEA says, was it a knife or something different? They say fixed blade, and you said you kind of with the tears, you would say a fixed blade with a kind of like a saw, like a double.
Well, there has to be something for, if his description of what he was told is correct, that gouging, what would cause that? That would cause a deformity of a knife cut. And I don't know what that is. It's just something, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Could something like a back saw do that? Yes. But there's a lot of other different types of instruments of sharp types of blades that could cause a lot of different types of injuries.
Yeah. Sure. Let's see if we can get if you have any questions, because it doesn't look like too many. So if you have a question for Steve or me, go ahead and put it in the chat. We'll try to get one or two more. There was one more thing I wanted to address. Yeah, so like I said, I'm going to play just a part of this video. I'm not going to play the whole thing. But yeah, I did kind of talk about Crew. I'm Chris, and today we kind of talked about 5 things that were kind of misreported, which the first one was the snow. The interesting one, if you didn't catch this video, is I talked about the glove that was found by Chris McDonald, and I know the Mark Furman jokes or whatever have been out there, but yeah, so the glove was found just behind this garbage can, which was on Thanksgiving when Chris McDonald showed up. I actually did an
see almost
overlay.
exactly where the glove would have been found.
So I did an overlay with the video, and as you can see, it wasn't there on day one. And then it has been updated that this did come from, I guess, one of the forensic teams. Maybe they were trying to toss the glove away or it just fell out of their back pocket. I'm assuming, he's probably getting his vehicle because it's right by where the vehicle would park. So, and then another one that I kind of talked about was the girls. I'm not going to show that one. I'll put the link to this video if you haven't seen it. We did kind of figure out where this light source most likely is coming from. This is still just opinion, but we think it's this from this road just above the student's home. But it is interesting that light was going off about 3, I forget the time, but just a little after 3:05, 3:10. But if you follow the point of line of sight, I should say, it takes you right to this home there. And you talked about a light in the backyard. Was that the one you were talking about, Steve?
Yes, on the back porch.
Yep.
Me and you was discussing.
Yep. So and then it looks like there's also a motion sensor, and then also possibly a car could have been parked and had the light shining there. It is interesting that light's going off for a little bit. And then, yeah, like I said, so there's a few things. Oop. Okay, wow. Interesting. I double clicked on that. I've never seen that happen. That was weird. It just blew everything up. So, see if we can catch any last questions here. Tears and gouges aren't terms a medical examiner would use. I don't know.
She's a coroner, and I don't think she's an attorney also, so she's not really in the medical field, and so her vocabulary would be different than some of the medical examiners.
Do you think they use the new product called Blue, something instead of luminol? I heard it's far superior. Ooh.
They would have used something that wouldn't be destructive to DNA, and there's a lot of different things out there that are sensitive, but some of them are just more destructive to DNA profiles than others. And so, yes, they, whatever, as the new chemicals and as the evolution of crime scene processing moves forward, they will always pay attention to that, because finding blood and being able to still process it for DNA is extremely important.
Yeah. Pigeon Mac says, always honored to have Mr. Steve insight. I know, amazing. And that really, like I said, just to touch on that one more time, how you mentioned that source is most likely a camera that's close by, like an e-camera, compared to a witness that saw a Hyundai Elantra. Because, how are they going to know it's between 2011 and 13 unless they could see the car and tell the details that it's, either this model or,
If you had 100 witnesses
That's
out
huge.
there and you asked each of them individually what kind of car was it, out of that 100, 1 or 2 of them may get it right. But I guess it would be a lot more wrong than it being a 2011, 2013. When law enforcement is that specific, they're going off of some good information.
Yeah. Why do they have a coroner? Why not ME take body? Well, I think there's 2 people that do. So when they take the body, there's like a coroner and then another person, right?
The coroner, and this is from the Georgia, it's an elected position.
Yeah.
And this is the person that has to come to the scene and claim the body and start the process and moves it through the system. that signs off on death certificates and all these other things. And then they don't have to be that they're the pathologist or the medical examiner, but they will send that either to a crime lab or to the proper people that have that medical background to follow up and determine the what type of injuries, what is the cause of death, what is the method of death, and time since death. And there's a lot of things that they'll be processing and looking at. And coroners don't always, they're not the ones that do that. They'll send that on down the path to the proper authorities.
Interesting. Okay. I saw someone that put a question. They couldn't copy and paste it. Trying to look for it real quick. Avi, okay, here we go. What are the chances of this to be a warning crime to get a certain person's attentions, like a shut up crime?
No, I mean, you have to be, I mean, you can have conspiracy theories, but what would be that reason? I mean, I don't even see that that's a possibility.
Yeah, because it would, I think that'd be more kind of political. Well, it doesn't have to be political, but somewhere that's got some kind of authority higher up.
Yeah.
I guess
you got 4 kids in a rural house going to college.
Yeah. But I got to your question, Nana. I know you're not a Chris fan. I'm sorry, but as long as you're at least a Steve fan.
I don't even know. No, I've never seen that name before. I know of.
But
I appreciate. I mean,
I appreciate
everybody's perspective brings in that you have to look at those and you rule them out. And law enforcement would look at that. I mean, they're not saying that it's, but they're not going to put all their eggs in one basket that this is a shut up crime type of thing. If there were certain things like notes and things to the parents saying, I told you, keep quiet.
Right.
Then that's a different matter. But we have no indications of any of that.
Yeah. That's a great point. I think we're going to probably end it there. I'm sorry. I've tried to get a little bit more, but if you missed it, I had this little incident. I'm going to have to upload the pictures to Twitter or something, but it's kind of a wild moment to see somebody take a manhole cover with them 30 feet down the road. Pretty wild. So final thoughts for today, Steve. Anything you want to add, buddy?
One of the biggest things I guess I've been asked about it is that do I believe that the person's targeted this household? And when you look at the household from the overview from Google Earth, whenever you look down at it, you're looking at a house that's on a secondary street. It's not on a primary street. It's not next to a busy shopping area or a store or any area that, there's nothing that stands out about this little residence that sits not even on the secondary street. It's set back away from the other houses that are more accessible. So I absolutely believe that whoever did this targeted that residence and the people inside of it for a reason and has knowledge of those people. And and that's just my 2 cents, because from this one picture over here, how many hundreds of houses are you looking at? And what stands out about this one little house on this little small secondary? It's like I said, there's not store frontage. There's not any type of big box stores. It's just sitting out here on a secondary street.
Yeah, and it's not like this house has got all these exits. This is a house that's buried into this, little neighborhood that, it's one way in, one way out. Like your worst kind of case scenario, if you're trying to get away from, trying to get away with a crime and have different exit plans, there's nothing. There's one way in, one way out, and even on foot, more or less. I mean it's because you've got to heal.
Surrounded by witnesses. I mean, hundreds of witnesses.
Right. Party town. I mean, it's, college. So.
And we have so many people still on the street. You have law enforcement less than 300 feet away.
Oh, God, yes.
And
right. You have law enforcement sitting here, right here.
Yeah.
at 3 a.m. to 3:20. I had to check, maybe 3:50, maybe not as far as 3:20, but
Yeah.
for 15
And-
minutes.
Yeah. And it's not like that there's not other people that are moving about all on these little streets in these apartments, in and out. And so it's one of those high risk, and there's nothing that stands out about that residence other than that the only reason anyone would notice that resident is that they would have some type of interest in one of the individuals in that residence.
Yeah. Sandra says, basically, what's Steve's profile? What do you think? Loner, student, registered SO, which is,
Yeah. This
Last-
individual, like I said, he is a organized, and he has a relationship. Now, just because he thinks he has a relationship doesn't mean that the victims recognize that relationship.
right.
His knowledge of them may be far greater than their knowledge of him. But that's going to come out in victimologies and past histories and financials on all this stuff, and what happened in there. We don't know. There's been claims made because the profile comes straight out of the crime scene, and we don't have anything in that crime scene yet to build that profile, other than there was 4 victims that were killed in that residence. And looking at the residence that is isolated, I mean, it's just out. It's nothing that makes you think that, oh, I'm passing through town and I found me a house. So we have to have some knowledge of that part of town, and you have something that would put you there. But we don't know of his personality of what type of individual it is, because we don't know what the crime scene looks like. And so you can't build a real good profile yet. But we are looking at an individual would be physically fit, because we're fighting multiple people. Someone that used a knife that and has a specific type of tactical, and for him to possess this type of weapon and this type of knife, you're talking about an individual that may go to gun shows. It's a tactical survival. He's going to be an outdoorsman that has spent times out. I mean, you're not having someone that is just a member of some group that wouldn't have, you're looking at someone that has access to that knife that would use that knife.
Right. He just didn't go buy it
No,
2 days before and,
No, he
go
wasn't
do
at
this.
the store where the car was and in there and say, oh, here's a knife display and I picked this. He has some reason of, and that's some reflective of his personality, the weapon choice, like, and carpenters kill with weapons they use. Most people use weapons they're familiar with, and I speak from the standpoint of people I've seen that, such as a carpenter, that will have defended themselves and been in fights, and they'll use hammers. I've seen them and roofing hammers and
Right.
levels, and I've seen people beat with everything, but it's usually from the things that's within their environment.
Tool set. Yeah.
And they'll use those things. This individual used a possible tactical survival knife. If they can identify exactly what type of knife it is, they'll be able to tell something about his personality, what type of what would that knife be used for. Now, that's only if it is that type of tactical Rambo type of knife. But and there's a lot of speculation out there. I mean, we don't really know anything really right now about the inside of that. But
oh, God, you're good. Sorry, I didn't mean to. She said I'm not a big fan of Chris. I thought she was talking about me. She was talking about Chris McDonald.
oh, okay. Like I said, I've never seen her.
But no, thank you. You guys are so sweet. And I had Copper Horse up there, but I just wanted to wish Copper Horse a happy birthday. Thank you so much, Copper Horse. She's a mod for my channel, does an amazing job, yeah, just happy birthday.
Absolutely,
so
Copper Horse. Much respect. Thank you for everything that you do for all these people that you support. It means a lot to everyone.
And thank you, Nana. That's so sweet. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate buddy taking the time to tune in. But I think we're gonna go ahead and end it there. I was hoping to have a little bit more, but like I said, had just kind of a weird day today. So, oh, has been banned? I don't think so. I saw him put out a video, so I don't know if he was banned. I know his videos were taken, not all of his videos, but the videos regarding this. But then I saw him put out a video, so I don't think he might have got slapped on the wrist though. I mean, which I think at the very least he deserves a big slap on the wrist. This is not the first time he's done something like this, and I hate cancel culture, but you know, making up stuff that's just really distasteful, really bad. So I just want to say thank you to the mods. Thank you to Jennifer, who's done an amazing job with the Nightbot. I'm sure that took a lot of hard work. And just all their mods. You guys are amazing. Let me just go ahead and close out because for some reason I can't see it on StreamYard. So I did a poll. We almost had 600 votes. Do you think this victim... do you think the killer knew was close to the victim? And 65% of you said yes. 21% said not sure. And 13% said no. So 65% of you think that this killer does know the victims, which I would agree as well. And also, we just did a... no, Sandra, I don't think, I'll just quickly, I don't think we kind of touched on this earlier as well. No, but thank you for the question. So thank you, Anna. You guys are awesome. So I'm going to go play a new pet outro. It's not completely done. I know there's still some more animals that I've got to work into it, but so just if you've sent me some animals and you don't see them, don't freak out. Sometimes I still have to work a few more in. So with that said, I love you guys. Have a safe night, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Steve, go ahead if you want to say any
Just
final
appreciate
things.
everybody being here. I enjoy working with Chris. He has a great show, great platform, and has a great impact. Thank you, Chris, for having me.
Thank you, buddy. I'll put you backstage. And so thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will tomorrow, Thursday, most likely we'll probably go live again tomorrow. So we will see you guys tomorrow, and we'll go ahead and play the new pet outro.